The rain was black on Velithar Prime. It wasn't really rain, not like Earth's. It was liquid carbon runoff from the refinery clouds that choked the alien sky, cascading down in greasy sheets that clung to armor, to skin, to breath. The sound of it echoed through the courtyard of the Dominion Citadel, a fortress carved into obsidian cliffs, surrounded by flame towers and banners that shimmered with alien script. I was on my knees, or rather, they wanted me to be. The Dominion Guard ringed me in a semicircle, their glaives glowing with humming plasma edges, trained on the humans standing in their sacred hall. My wrists were bound with iridium cuffs, tight enough to numb my fingers. My shirt was torn, my face cut. I had been dragged here straight from the battlefield, the last survivor of Task Force Kilo 7. And yet, I didn't kneel. A tall figure stepped forward, the one they called Marshal Threx, commander of the Dominion's planetary forces. His silver armor reflected the crackling light of the storm above. His voice was low, like thunder on steel. "Human," he said, his eyes narrowing. "You stand before the Dominion. You stand before the bloodline that conquered 6 galaxies. Kneel, and I may let you live." I met his gaze. I'd been beaten, starved, stripped of my weapons, but not of my pride. "You want me to kneel?" I said, tasting blood. "You'll have to break my legs first." A murmur ran through the guards, disbelief, then anger. The humans had fought hard, yes, but never like this. We were supposed to be broken, beaten slaves or corpses. I was neither. Threx took a step closer, his glaive lowering until the tip hovered near my throat. "You defy the Dominion. Even your species should understand what that means." I smiled through cracked lips. "Oh, I understand," I said. "But maybe you don't." The Marshal tilted his head. "And what would that be?" That's when I said it, the words that would freeze the entire hall, that would turn an execution into something else entirely. "I carry the words of the first accord," I said softly. For the first time, the alien commander hesitated. "Middle. The words that shouldn't exist." The room fell silent. Every Dominion guard froze, not out of fear of me, but of the words I had spoken. The first accord was ancient, a treaty that predated the Dominion itself. It was the last binding intergalactic oath, sworn after the Celestial War, long before humanity had even reached the stars. Its records were lost to time, sealed in the archives of the Dominion's inner council. No human should have even known it existed. Threx's eyes narrowed, a flicker of doubt crossing his perfect posture. "You lie," he said, but his voice was softer now. I didn't move. "Check your records." "My name's Captain Elias Ward, Earth Defense Command. 2 cycles ago, I was part of an archaeological recon on the ruins of Redis 4. We found something in the dust, something your kind forgot." The guards exchanged uncertain looks. One of them, a lower officer, touched the hilt of her glaive nervously. "Marshal," he said the accord. Threx turned, snapping. Silence. But the unease was spreading. I could see it, the twitch of armor plates, the slight shifts in stance. I had no weapon, no power. But I had the truth, or at least the shadow of it. The accord wasn't just words, I said. It was sealed by genetic code. Each race that fought in the war placed their essence into the oath, woven into the bloodlines that followed. I took a slow breath. "Including yours. Including mine." Threx's expression darkened. Humans were not part of the accord. "No," I said. "But the makers of humans were." That silenced him. The secret of the makers. 2 of the guards broke formation to scan me, luminous scanners passing over my skin, reading DNA, structure, cell patterns. The results appeared instantly on their helmet displays. And that's when the first gasp came. The officer's voice trembled. Marshal, his genome, carries the prime sequence. The words hit the air like a thunderclap. Threx's eyes widened. The prime sequence was myth, the genetic code of the makers, the ones who engineered the first Dominion ancestors. It was supposed to be long gone, erased by eons of evolution. Yet here it was in me, in a human. I met Threx's stare evenly. Now do you see why I won't kneel? The hall erupted into confusion. Some guards raised their weapons higher, others stepped back. The air shimmered with uncertainty, a crack forming in the iron control of the Dominion's hierarchy. Threx regained his composure, gripping his glaive tightly. You expect me to believe you are a descendant of gods? I shrugged. I don't need you to believe it. The code in your scanners already did. He turned to his guards. Deactivate the restraints. Bring him to the council chamber. Now. The chamber of silence. They escorted me, still under guard, but without the cuffs, through winding corridors of black stone and golden light. Every alien we passed stopped and stared. To them, I was a paradox, the slave species that defied its masters, carrying the blood of their creators. We reached a massive chamber where walls pulsed with faint blue light. At its center floated a holographic seal, the sigil of Accord, spinning endlessly in the air, glowing with runes that no one alive could read. Threx approached the seal and turned toward me. If you truly speak the words, he said, then recite them. I stepped forward. The seal's light reflected in my eyes. I remembered the ruins, the carvings we'd found, the voice that had echoed in my mind when I'd touched the stone tablet. And then I spoke. From the ashes of stars we rise, bound not by rule nor reign, but by the breath that gives voice to creation. The sigil pulsed once, and the entire chamber lit up like a nova. The guards stumbled backward, shielding their faces. Threx froze as the air filled with a low hum, ancient and vast. The sigil symbols began to shift, rearranging themselves. For the first time in recorded history, the Accord responded. When the light faded, the holographic projection condensed, forming words in Dominion script, glowing faintly. Threx read them aloud. The bearers of the prime sequence shall not bow before the forged. He stared at me in disbelief. You? That's right, I said. You are the forged. My kind are the bearers. Middle climax, the divide. The Dominion hierarchy was absolute. It was built on the belief that their ancestors were divine, that they were perfection incarnate. The idea that a human, a fragile being from a backwater planet, carried the code of their gods, it shattered everything they knew. Threx looked torn, caught between faith and fear. If this is true, he said slowly, then we have lived a lie. Not a lie, I said softly. Just a half-truth. You were created to protect, to build. Somewhere along the line, you forgot. He stepped closer. And what are you, then? A messenger? A soldier? A god? Just a man, I said. But a man who remembers. That seemed to strike something in him, a glimmer of doubt, of memory. Perhaps even of shame. The other guards murmured nervously. One dropped to a knee. Another followed. Within seconds, the chamber filled with the sound of armored kneeling, the forged bowing to the bearer. But Threx didn't move. You have no idea what you've done, he said finally, his voice trembling between awe and fury. The council will not accept this. They will destroy you before they let the old truth rise again. Maybe, I said, but the truth's already out. The attack. The chamber doors burst open. Another unit of Dominion soldiers stormed in, not Threx's guard, but the high commanders, their armor marked with crimson. At their head stood a woman with pale skin and silver eyes, High Warlord Sailra, the Dominion's executioner. She looked at me, then at Threx. You brought the human here? He bears the prime sequence, Threx said quietly. Sailra laughed coldly. You believe that myth? He's a spy, nothing more. She raised her weapon. By decree of the council, he dies now. Threx stepped between us.
No.
Her eyes flared. You would defy me? I would honor the accord, he said. The air cracked with tension. Sailra's soldiers raised their rifles. Threx's guards moved to block them. For a moment, it was chaos frozen in place. Every finger on every trigger, every heart racing. I looked between them and took a slow breath. Stop, I said. And somehow, impossibly, they did. The sigil still glowed faintly behind us, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Its light spread across the floor, crawling up the walls, casting shadows that felt almost alive. Sailra's armor began to flicker. Her weapon shorted out. What is this? It's the accord, I said quietly. It recognizes me. And then, for the first time, she hesitated. What are you? The one thing your empire can't control, I said. The truth. Ending the new accord. When it was over, the citadel burned. Threx and I escaped through the outer tunnels, guided by the few guards who now called me bearer. The sigil's activation had rippled through the Dominion's network, shattering encrypted archives, revealing truths long buried about the makers, about the origins of their species, about humanity's role in the stars. As we emerged into the storm, I looked back at the fortress collapsing into the black rain. You'll be hunted, Threx said. So will you, I replied. He gave a grim smile. Then perhaps it's time the Forged remembered why they were made. I looked at him. You're really going to help me? I serve the accord now, he said. Not the council. We stood on the cliff's edge as thunder rolled across the wasteland. The Dominion banners fell one by one, torn by the wind. I glanced at the horizon, where the first human ships would soon arrive, drawn by the signal the accord had sent across the void. Guess we just rewrote history, I said. Threx nodded slowly. No, he murmured. You just restored it. He looked at me one last time, his silver eyes reflecting the storm. When they ordered you to kneel, he said softly, you made us all stand. Epilogue. The message that traveled beyond stars. Weeks later, aboard the human ship Endeavour, I sat in front of a transmission console. The message I sent wasn't long, just a few lines, encoded in the language of the accord. To all sentient life, the blood of the makers runs not in gods, but in all who choose to stand. The forged shall no longer kneel. The bearers have returned. The signal went out, a spark of light across the dark. And somewhere, in the ashes of the old Dominion, a warrior looked up at the sky and whispered, We remember.